Hi, I'm Tony Schindler and you're watching the Commissioner's Corner. The Commissioner's Corner aims to bring you information on the many facets of Fulton County government. County government provides residents with a range of basic services that protect children, maintain roadways, grow local economy, and so much more. Have you ever taken a moment to think about why you are here? How did you get here? Does your family live here? Did you move here for a job? Marry somebody from Fulton County? Whether you're a history buff, have deep familial heritage, or you just live or work in Fulton County, you are the living, breathing history of our county. Today's guest on the Commissioner's Corner is John Swearingen Jr., the Executive Director of the Fulton County Historical Society. Hi, John.
Hello.
Thanks for being here with us today.
You're welcome.
John, tell us a little bit about your background in the Historical Society, the sort of things.
Well, I am now currently the director of the Fulton County Museum, but previous to that, I was the manager of the design department at the Henry Ford Museum in Greenfield Village. Started my own consulting business, working throughout the tri-state area, and then most recently the manager of the Lincoln Museum in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Great, and now you're the executive director at the Fulton County Historical Society in Wauseon. And you've been there for how many years?
6 years now.
6 years now. And John has done a wonderful job of cataloging the artifacts and bringing exhibits in and making the current structure and the current home a really nice place to be able to come and see artifacts. Preserving the past, embracing the present, and making the future is the theme for an exciting new project that the Historical Society is a part of. Let's talk a little bit about this opportunity.
Sounds good.
So tell us what this new opportunity is.
We are hoping to move our current collection to a new site at the 108, State Route 108, near the fairgrounds. And this would be a much larger facility than what we have now, and also show folks the history of not only part of our county, but talk about the whole county, not just Wauseon City where we're located now.
So we've had this conversation before. Sometimes people resonate with the current location of the museum as being a Wauseon museum for a couple of reasons. One, it is in Wauseon. Second, because your building is also a historical structure. It was the former Wauseon High School and also a former hospital.
Yes, it tells the story of Wauseon starting in 1868. It was the first high school building. The building we're in now is the most recent school. But everything between that time period and now is gone. So it's the only standing structure we have from the original Wauseon High School, period. Then the building was damaged in 1891. It started falling apart, and the children were moved to the Elm Street School, and the new owner turned it into a duplex. He lived on one side and rented the other side out. Then two doctors from Pettysville formed the first county hospital. So the hospital we see today on Scott Street had its beginnings in our building until 1929, when the new hospital was built on Shoup Avenue, Detweiler Manor.
So yes, so the current building that you're in has a ton of history itself. It is a beautiful structure. If you haven't had the opportunity to do so, it is located in Wauseon on Monroe Street, and it's a true pleasure to be able to go in and see the history of Fulton County through artifacts that they've acquired by donation, or sometimes they purchase artifacts that go in their collection. But it's a little treasure, a hidden gem that we have in Fulton County. And to kind of dispel some of those myths, you have artifacts that cover all four corners of the county. Can you tell us about some of the artifacts that you have in the museum?
In particular, our archival collection has letters, deeds, photographs, maps from all over the county. We have a lot of people who come in for research for their family and are excited when they get to see a face of someone in their family that they didn't know, a photo they didn't know existed. And then our three-dimensional objects are just from all over the county. Archbold area, we have objects from Fayette, Metamora, and some of these towns that don't even exist anymore. We have collections from those sites.
Wonderful. And what are some of your feature items? What are some of your big draws and attractions?
Well, a lot of people are interested in Barney Oldfield's story. He was a famous race car driver who was born here in Dover Township and then grew up in Wauseon. As a little boy, he went to the White School, which is around the corner from our museum building now. And we own his, the cradle that he was born in, and his grandfather, Yarnell, made that for him. And then we have other artifacts from him and his family. And then we have a huge military collection from almost every war, from the War of 1812 to the Vietnam War. We have quite a few veterans who've donated things to us over the years, including the Civil War. It was probably our largest collection because our group started in 1883, so a lot of those soldiers passed away when our group had already was existing. So we received a lot of their artifacts, military rifles, swords, memorabilia, commendation. Our most famous thing is the E.L. Hayes sword that was made by the Tiffany Company that makes the jewelry in New York City, and the city of Wauseon had that made for him when he formed the 100th OVI and left Wauseon in 1862. And so it has the name of the town engraved on it, and that's a pretty important object to our collection.
Fantastic. And that's a part of your Helen Homefront collection, correct? You have a
Yes.
Civil War exhibit, actually, that's in its third year, I believe.
This is the last year of the war,
Yeah.
so we're showing 1865. This will show Lincoln being assassinated, and then the aftermath, what happened in Fulton County as a result of this war.
Great. And you had mentioned something that we haven't touched base on yet, is that your association has actually existed since the late 1800s, and it started out as the Pioneer Association. Talk a little bit about the beginnings of the Historical Society.
Well, Dresden Howard was the famous Indian interpreter who moved here with his family in the 1830s when this was Lucas County at the time, and he was worried that the stories of these original pioneers would be lost. And so he formed this organization. They met only twice a year, a picnic in the summer, and then an all-day event at the courthouse in the winter time. And you had to be a member, one of the original families from Fulton County to be in the organization, and then when those folks died out, you had to be a child of one of those pioneers. But then you can see by the 1950s, that wasn't practical anymore, and the name was changed to Fulton County Historical Society.
One story that I always enjoy hearing about, and I just love imagining this event taking place, is when they all gathered, a family from each township of Fulton County gathered out at the Fulton County Fairgrounds, and each of them were asked to bring a log from their township, or from their family farm even, and a rock. And they built the very first historical society, the Pioneer Association Historical Society, on the fairground site at Fulton County.
Yep.
So that, I love that story. I love the symbolism behind the story.
Right.
And I understand that the rock garden still exists.
Yes, and this is the 130th anniversary of that rock garden being built. And our president of our organization is still the person that tends that garden every year and plants the flowers and takes care of it. So it's right next to the, at the end of the midway near the restroom building.
So near the restroom building. So when you're at the Fulton County Fair or an event at the Fulton County Fairgrounds, take a look. Look that rock collection up. I think it's something that we should be so proud of, and many of us don't even know that it exists. So definitely take a walk by there and check it out. You have a couple of other buildings at the fairgrounds as well.
First building that we moved there in 1975 was the blacksmith shop from Delta. We saved that building from being razed, and it is still housing Raphael Reard's collection. They moved the building with everything
Wow.
in it, contents in it, even all the horseshoes up in the attic. And then next to it is our log cabin, which we moved here in '81 from Chesterfield Township, and then in 1990, I think in the early 90s, we moved the Swan Creek Township Hall from Swanton area to the fairgrounds because it also was going to be raised.
the new building project that the Historical Society is a part of. And not only do they own the buildings at the fairground that John just mentioned, but they're also going to preserve and maintain their existing building on Monroe Street. You're going to repurpose it as the History Manor, as I understand it, and you have a committee of people who are working on that. Tell us a little bit about what some of the hopes and dreams are for the History Manor.
Well, it's very exciting actually, because we have quite a few furniture pieces in the building that we'd like to keep there. Some are residential and some are hospital related. So the idea is to take people on a tour where each room that they go through, we're moving through time. So that you'd open the door and walk into the 1885 high school classroom of Wauseon. Then you'd be going into 20 years later, in 1905, to the home of Mr. Mercer, who renovated the building. And then you'd be going up the staircase to the hospital in 1925. So you'd see it in its heyday when it's the busiest. Women birthing at one end and surgeries at the other end. And then when you go down the stairs on the opposite side of the building, you'd be going into Ruth Campbell's 1945 World War II apartment. So you'll be able to see changes in furnishing styles, technology, and Wauseon's history as you walk through the building. So our Nobel Prize winner from Wauseon was a high school student in 1885. So we would show him in class in the 1885 office. So we'd be showing quite a bit of history of Wauseon in this site.
Great. So you'll be able to have this building, it'll be repurposed, it'll be just another place for visitors to be able to partake in their Fulton County Historical Society journey. You also have the depot in Wauseon as well, that you open up at certain times of the year. I know that you host the Rotary Santa Claus there, and other events. You do the haunting tours in the fall, which are very popular, and so that's just another location for people to be able to visit and have fun. I mean, most of these things are just, they're real joy and pleasure. Again, they're hidden gems, so we encourage you to check them out. There's one more thing before we talk about the new exciting project that we're here to talk about today, but you are a part of a Heritage Alliance partnership, and so you have partnered with other historical entities throughout the county, and you're sharing resources and you're promoting each other, and you're really working together to preserve the past and the history of Fulton County. Tell us a little bit about that partnership and what goes on there.
Well, if we start at the U.S. level, there's an association called the American Association of State and Local History, and then at our Ohio level we have the Ohio Local History Alliance, and then we are now creating a third tier just in Fulton County, because there are so many different groups. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we were the only history group. But now there's a genealogical society, a Metamora area group, Lyons area depot. Fayette has a new organization called the Bean Creek Center, which is the whole Bean Creek watershed history, and then Sauter Village. And so we got together and said, hey, maybe there's things we should be doing together, save money, and not reinvent the wheel. So right now, for example, we're all getting together and working on what newspapers need to be digitized and what microfilms need to be converted over to digitization, so that folks don't have to go to these old ancient machines and turn the crank and try to page by page find their information. And we're also working at a disaster plan for the whole county, where if something happened, a flood at one of our buildings, the other groups would come together and help us clean up afterwards, because we'd all be trained together. We're working on also a speakers bureau idea, where we can get a grant and have a speaker at each of our 5 sites throughout the year and promote that as a big event.
Great. So partnerships are a great way to provide efficiency and, like I said earlier, help promote each other and take advantage of the resources that exist and that we have. So I'm so thrilled that you have that partnership and that you're all working together in the interest of one. And moving on, we're going to talk about another partnership, a partnership of three really, and moving on to the new museum and the exciting opportunities that exist there. John, tell us a little bit about how this opportunity came to fruition and why.
Well, we had 3 years ago had come to the commissioners and asked if there was a site somewhere, a piece of land that they owned that we could build a new museum on. We were trying to get out of Wauseon and into a more neutral location where we weren't in particular one city oriented. We get feel like alienated feelings from different parts of the county. And so we tried to find a more central location that people could find easily. And while we were doing this, the county was also being approached by ODOT to build a new facility, and the county itself needed to build an emergency operation center. So it just happened that all these three entities needed something at the same time, and our legislatures, Barbara Sears and
Randy
Gardner approached us about money that was available through the state for the facilities improvements. And so we quickly got together our grant proposal and received that $1 million.
What kind of opportunities are going to be possible with this new space?
Bring us up to a higher level of playing field with other museums. We will be able to provide more exhibits that are more on a national level rather than something that we put together in the back room. We will be able to have more research facility for folks who are doing their genealogical research and archival research. Our collection keeps growing and we need space to house it and to display it. And then just the ability to bring tour groups through. This is a problem we have now. We cannot bring a bus of 45 people through the museum all at once. It's just impossible. The spaces are small, and in a new facility we can have a much more controlled flow visitor experience. People need to be able to come in and gather. They need to use the bathroom. Just simple amenity things that you don't think about until you don't have them.
Sure, sure. And I know that isn't a challenge that exists in your current location. It's an older home. There's stairs. They're safe, but there's stairs, and you have one restroom, and the quarters are tight. So getting and managing larger groups becomes a challenge for the current location. Plus things like safety and preservation. Being able to have access to the right air quality and the humidity in the air and all these details that we don't necessarily think of that goes into preserving artifacts and keeping them for the end of time. So all of those opportunities exist, as well as some of the educational opportunities and some of the other things that we'll talk about. What makes the current historical society unique? And you're going to be transferring that out to the location. But we have lots of historical entities in Fulton County, but what really makes you unique?
Well, our county motto is, "I will find a way or make my own," and this goes back to Roman times when one of our Roman leaders wanted to get over a mountain with his army, and he decided to use elephants, and that was his motto, is that he would find a way or make his own. And so he made his own way with these elephants. And so I think the reason Dresden Howard and the early county commissioners picked that theme was because of that spirit of the pioneer to come into this territory which was completely wild, and to make their path through life and their hopes and dreams realized. And so this is a theme that continues. People don't realize it, but we are still that way here in Fulton County, pulling ourselves up by the bootstraps, helping each other out. And in this new museum timeline, you will see these repeats in history. where people have fallen, picked each other up, got back on the horse, and made a better life for themselves.
So let's talk a little bit about that. What are you going to feature in the new gallery that you have planned?
Well, we are starting way back in the Ice Age with the first melt and the mastodons that were living here. We have one that was found near Winnipeg, and the bones still exist, so we could display part of a skull of a mastodon. We had different ancient folks that were here, Paleo people and Neanderthal folks, that we could not, because we have just their tools, we can take those tools and create a larger display to show more reality of how they use these tools. And then we'll get into the historical Indian period, which would be the Adawa and the Potawatomi and the Shawnee and the other natives that were living here when the whites first arrived. And then we'd be segueing into the surveyors who first came here and surveyed the land, fought with Michigan over the border, into the pioneer period, where this finally became Fulton County, into the Underground Railroad period, the Civil War, into the early immigrants, all the different nationalities that are here. And that does include the current Latino community that's come in the last 30 years to this area. Moving into the adventurous time period of Barney Oldfield and all the daredevils and the bicycles that were invented and sold here in the county. We even had an airplane daredevil that landed his plane here in the county. And moving into the Industrial Revolution, all the great inventions. People don't realize all the things that were invented here in Fulton County. The steam engines that were so popular for the threshing convention, which is going on right now, were invented here in Fulton County. Cream separators, the Sterling Company, and on, into World War II, and all of a sudden women are running all the factories, men are gone, and so we want to show women becoming leaders in the 1940s, and then we'll end the exhibit with the great baby boom and the New World Order of the 1950s, where society was king and civic groups were at their high point and helping each other out in the communities.
So essentially, it's Fulton County history, but it's also a timeline of American history. So people who are just driving by and may want to stop, they may notice the architecture of the building, which we haven't talked about yet, but we'll get to that next. They may stop, and essentially they are going to be able to walk in and kind of get a snapshot of American history, but told through the Fulton County eyes.
Right.
Yeah, great. And then as I understand it too, you have some space that you've blocked out in the middle of the gallery where you'll be able to bring in some of the traveling exhibits that you mentioned earlier, some national types of exhibits, things that still fit into your mission statement and your motto, but maybe a little bit different and can have a more regional draw and help bring more people to Fulton County, not only to your location, but to be able to then travel to the other locations of Fulton County, whether it's working with your Heritage Alliance partners or with the Visitors Bureau that will be housed out of the new building site as well. So it will be a great partnership.
Yep.
Yeah. So we didn't talk about the architecture. The architecture is unique, and actually John's an architect by trade as well. He's very talented. And tell us a little bit about the thought that went into the exterior design of the building.
Well, our first courthouse was built in 1854, and we don't have a photograph of it. But based on the Greek Revival time period, the measurements that are listed in our recording, in the sister courthouse in California, there's one still standing, we would like to recreate the facade of the original Fulton County Courthouse, which was lost in 1864 during the Civil War.
Due to fire.
Yes.
Yes, and that was located in Ottakee, as I understand.
Which is only a mile from where we'll be building this. So it's
Yeah.
very close. If there was a post office at the fairground, we would have an Oddie address.
Oh, and then you have the barn-like facade that is actually going to be the gallery. And talk about what your thoughts were behind.
I picked the
The design.
standard 1880s post and beam style barn because that is the most popular, ubiquitous barn you would see today driving through the county. The gambrel roof style is later in the 1890s, and the bank barns are earlier than that. So I kind of picked that middle range time zone when barns were still red. They used blood from the animals and mixed it with whitewash paint, and so that's the style we're trying to recreate on that side of the building.
Great. And that's really to represent the deep agricultural history and roots and future that we have here in Fulton County. And I think that it represents that well.
Plus it hides light because a barn doesn't have a lot of windows, and that'll keep the objects safe by not having a lot of natural light coming in.
Light in there. So you've designed it to be able to control.
The doors will actually slide open and shut depending on the exhibits inside.
Right.
So if a very light sensitive exhibit, we'll shut those barn doors.
Very good. Very good. He's always thinking. He's always thinking. So tell us a little bit about how are the commissioners involved in this project? What is the relationship between the commissioners and the society?
Well, we've been working on this project for 2 years now with them, actually designing it with them and working on even the name of the facility and a lot of the details on how the process will occur to build. We've never seen something like this where a private nonprofit, a county, and a state have worked together on one building project. And so we have a really great architect who's working on this project who knows how we live as museum people, and they will be able to coordinate all of these things so that everyone's happy at the end.
All those moving parts, yeah. And, one of the questions that we always hear is, how are you going to fund this project? How are you going to make this happen? And so certainly you have a plan in place where you're having to embark in a fundraising campaign to help complete the inside of the gallery. All the wonderful, exciting things that we just talked about are things that are going to require some funding. So the Historical Society trustees and a fundraising committee have gotten together and have put a plan into place on outreaching to the community and to the members, and share a little bit about some of the projects that you have going on.
Well, for the really big donors, we are naming rooms in the building after them. This is something you see like Fifth Third Field in Toledo. At smaller levels, we have sponsor circles at 3 different levels for our partners that we're going to be bringing in over and over to show them what's going on in the process. And then at our lowest level, we are selling $100 square ceramic tiles, which you can put your family member on there or yourself. And this photo montage, tile montage, when you stand back at the front desk where you just bought your ticket to the museum and you turn around and look at it, you'll see a much larger image. So up close you see each individual face, but from a distance you'll see a larger secret image which we have not revealed yet.
So it's to be named, but what a great way to preserve your history in Fulton County. However you're connected, as if you've married into somebody from Fulton County and you now live here, or you work here, or your family has deep roots here in Fulton County, these are ways that you can get involved and be a part of this project and help continue to preserve our heritage and our past. Certainly an exciting project, and one that's a first of its kind with the county and the state and the private entity. So it's all very exciting. It's all very exciting.
I think we'll become a poster child for other counties that will want to copy what we're doing here.
Yes. I mean, again, the efficiencies that it provides and the partnership, much like your Heritage Partner Alliance, it's the same thing on a much bigger scope. So being able to work together with our partners is I think going to be like you said, a nice poster child thing that other people can learn from and take advantage of. So.
And we have a display right now at the State House promoting this project and trying to show people what we're doing up here. And we're not just country bumpkins up in the northwest corner of the state.
And that we're very proud of our heritage, and we have really risen above some difficult times and found our way in many instances and cases. So there you have it. So thank you so much to INTV for being here with us today and for hosting our interview, and thank you to all the viewers out there. Again, I'm Tony Schindler with the Fulton County Commissioners. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications, and we're here with John Swearingen Jr. today. And we hope that you learned something new and that you'll check out the current museum, and we hope to keep you posted on the new exciting events that are occurring out north as well. John, how can somebody stay apprised of this project? How can people be connected to it and learn what's going on, learn more about your current museum, and stay connected?
We are going to be updating this project as it's constructed on our website, which is www.fultoncountymhs.org.
Very good. And you also can be reached at your office as well. 419-337-7922 is our phone number at the museum. Great. And you also have a very, very active Facebook page with a lot of followers and a lot of great information that's posted. If not anything, it's just interesting. A lot of great historical photos that people comment and they resonate with because they remember being there, or it was a favorite gift shop that they went to. So check out the Facebook page. John, remind us of what your tag is for the Facebook page.
Fulton County Historical Society. And then we also have a group page for the new museum, which is Museum and Welcome Center of Fulton County, Ohio.
Yes, so make sure you like that page and follow them and have fun, because it's so fun to watch those feeds go through and all of that history and information being presented.